Hello, welcome back to Hunter Tune. Sorry for the crazy hair going on here. But anyways, I set my camera up differently so I can actually film this way. Or that way. Look at that. No more blurred out picture here with the lighting in the background. The camera's actually noticing now that I have light behind me. Look at that difference. Okay, anyways. We are working on a Honda Civic EK hatchback today, and it's been nothing but issues. Like, guy dropped it off needing a tune, and we ended up sticking a few days worth of work into it. Hang on, let me put my selfie stick on here. We ended up putting a few days worth of work into it and getting it up and running. Car came in with some bad injectors, and we had to swap out the injectors, get it all working, and then we had to fix water pump pipe seal. So the pipe on the back of the block was leaking, so we had to replace that O-ring, and we got the O-ring replaced, fixed all that. Then there was an oil leak that we found, and then there was a oil leak, and we found some metal in the oil, and I was a little concerned about that. So I got a little clip with my cell phone. Me and my buddy Chris were just inspecting the oil filter and the oil inside of there. And I might throw that little clip in here.
Unless you think that's air bubbles.
No, those are flakes. All metal flakes.
That's what I thought too. Oh yeah, look at that big chunky flake. A big chunker right there.
As you guys can see, there was a little metal in the oil. And just a bunch of little things kind of came up with the car. There was a ground issue. The transmission ground to the frame was like shitty. The ground from the battery was shitty. So like every time I turned the car on, it would either like click, wouldn't start. The lights would go dim, then they would go bright, then the starter would smack really hard, and it was just like a weird issue. And it ended up being just the grounds were dirty and were not cleaned off very well. And then, like I said, we got it running. I did a couple dyno rips, got the car running good, and now it's outside, and the guy's gonna come pick it up. And I noticed another little thing with the car now afterwards, already pretty much being done with the car. We found another issue, and I figured I'd share with you guys because it is fucking hilarious. So right now, I'm gonna pop the hood. This is the setup. It's a H22, or it's a H23, I mean. It has like a single cam throttle body on it. It's just kind of some thrown together parts. And I mean, it runs and drives good now, but there was an issue with the timing belt. You guys can see down there, the timing belt is actually rubbing on the inside a little bit. So I had to just tell the customer about that. He's gonna figure that out. And I mean, it's not like super bad rubbing, but it is rubbing nonetheless. So it is common on the H-series stuff for the timing belt to have issues when you don't assemble stuff properly. So I did notify him of that. And then, yeah. So anyways, here we go. Shut the hood. We're gonna go inside the car now. And I'm gonna start this thing up. See all the idles like really low and lumpy? Lil Peep. It's barely idling. Just like kind of sounding like shit. Watch this. I'm gonna pop the hood. That's all I'm gonna do. What? What a weird issue. I don't know if the map sensor or something is hitting. Up top here, which it looks like it is. Maybe it's crushing the map sensor or something. Or the wiring on the valve cover here I don't think is touching. But there's definitely something when I shut the hood. It's just not happy. Like, watch. I'll completely just shut the hood. Car's running fine. I'm not changing anything else other than shutting the hood. Super weird. We got another one over there that we got to work on. Diesel over here. anyways, rest of the video, we're going to work on an S10. This truck got brought in yesterday and just kind of been ironing out some things. It is needing a tune, and seems like that might be all it needs. So we are working on this thing, getting it running. I got the dyno wideband already installed into the exhaust pipe, and I have gone through some things with the truck. I was actually just kind of tuning the idle last night and noticed that it had a small transmission leak. So he's thinking that he might have overfilled the transmission. So we are going to check that out here soon. But it is a S10 with a 5.3 and a sloppy stage 2 camshaft. Yeah, it's a cool little truck, and we're gonna get to dyno tuning it and hopefully making some good power. And then I'll bring you guys along the ride to see how this thing's gonna run and stuff like that. So actually, let's just hop in here and we'll see how, it's got a kill switch just like my Mustang does. We're gonna see how this thing cold starts, and we're gonna have to do some adjustments, obviously, to get this thing to run properly. A lot of the time tuning these factory LS engines with a camshaft, a lot of my time is spent getting them to idle right, because the stock computer just fucking sucks. I hate doing HP tuner shit. I mean, I don't hate it, it's just way more time consuming than doing Holly or Mega Squirt or any of those. So I actually have been thinking about charging more for doing HP tuner stuff, because it is just so much more time consuming to get the cars to run right. Alright, anyways, enough complaining. That's a cold start, guys. I did get a lot of this worked out pretty well, I think. Fired right up. And I got her chopping I got her chopping. That's all I can say. I got her chopping pretty good. So, we're gonna pull this thing on the dyno. It's got the factory floor shifter hooked up to a 4L60E, which is pretty sweet. The only thing with this truck is the damn dinger for the door just stays on unless I hold it shut manually, which I feel like I might put a piece of tape or something over that to hold it for the time being. See, I gotta work on that. When I rev it up and it comes back down to, yeah, sometimes it dies when you rev it up and come back down. It only does that when it's cold right now. I used to not even barely run, but I got a lot of it ironed out already. So, yeah, I'm going to get this thing all strapped down. I'm gonna check out that transmission leak to make sure that it's not anything that's gonna hurt anything. And then we're gonna plug the HP tuner back in and see what we can come up with for a tune. Hopefully get that idle sorted out and make some horsepower. Alright guys, so we got the S10 all strapped down onto the dyno now. And as you can see, I have driven it a little bit. There's a puddle underneath the truck. It is leaking transmission fluid from what I believe to be the vent tube. So I think the transmission is over full. At least I hope that's what the problem is. We're gonna see kind of what this thing does on a baseline quick. With the tune that was in it, I have not touched anything other than idle airflow stuff. I have not actually touched fuel or ignition. So I'm gonna do a dyno run and kind of see where this thing's at. So the air fuel didn't look terrible. It looked maybe a little lean. and I think I saw 17 degrees of timing and a 5,400 RPM rev limiter. I am doing second gear because this truck does not have a drive shaft safety loop on it, so the runs are kind of short. But that produced 220 horsepower. Bad looking curve, good torque, 268 foot-pounds. Let's see if we can clean this thing up at all. We got to get rid of some engine lights, and yeah, that's just a baseline. So we got something to work off of now, and we're going to do some changes and go again. Alrighty guys, so we did end up changing a couple things in the computer, and I got it writing right now, and it just completed. So we'll close out of this. We turned the rev limiter up a little bit. I changed it from 55 to 65 because this car does have valve springs and a cam, so, and the power curve is still growing. So we're gonna rev it a little higher, and I turned the power enrichment on sooner because they had power enrichment coming on, but it was only above 90% throttle, which sometimes when you go above, you know, sometimes it takes a second to go over 90. You know, so if you're 89% throttle, it's not going to fuel for wide open. So I like to set that a lot lower, like, you know, 40% or 30%. So I changed that, and I also changed the amount of fuel for power enrichment under the EQ ratio. I changed those, and then I also, I think that's it. I did desensitize the knock sensors because that was actually, I did that prior to that last pull. I desensitized the knock sensors because even just idling, this thing was pulling timing on the knock sensors at idle. So I had to desensitize those, and now we should be good for another run and see where we're at. So the air fuel was right around 13.0 that time, 13 degrees of ignition only. Right coming into it, it was a little better on that last run. It was like 17 degrees, but this time, I think the converter coupled better because I bumped the rev limiter up, and the pull lasted a little longer, and the computer kind of caught itself. So now I think it's running 13 degrees of timing, so we'll see kind of what that did, if it picked up at all. It did pick up down low, and it literally overlaid almost the same exact pull. So, yeah. Let's put some timing in this thing and see if we can bump up the power a little bit more. Alrighty guys, so we put the tune-em all in it, and instead of running 13 degrees of timing, I'm now running 20. So we'll see what that does. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. We definitely picked up some power, boys. So we went from 216 to 260, 340 foot-pounds, and let me tell you guys, that thing picked up everywhere on the curve. Let's zoom in here. Oop. So the green is the new one, the blue is the old. And as you guys can see, it loved that timing. Alrighty guys, we're gonna keep working on the truck now and ironing out a couple more things. So this transmission was definitely over full. It was coming out of the vent tube. The puddle has subsided. It's actually kind of a common thing a lot of guys do, is they overfill the transmissions on these swaps. I don't know why, just common. Let's see here. Power my laptop back up. But what we're gonna do now is we're going to change the shift points for wide open throttle. Let's see here. So we'll go to transmission. and we'll go to shift scheduling, and we'll go to full throttle shift speed. I don't usually change, I just change the full throttle RPM because it needs to see both of these. It needs to see over, 25 mile an hour, and it also needs to see this RPM. So it's easier for me. I like to just change the RPM of the shift point because that's really what I want to change. So we're gonna bump them up to 6,000. Boom. And then wide open for 3.4, I always set above the rev limiter because you don't ever want to shift into overdrive when you're wide open. You want it to stay in third. That's it. Park throttle shifting. I'm gonna go take it for a drive down the road and see kind of how that feels. And yeah, that's about it, guys. So pretty stout little S10. Everything seems to be working good. All right, guys, the truck ended up doing 282 horsepower and 360 foot-pounds of torque. What a monster. We definitely cleaned that thing up a lot, and it's a blast to drive. I took it out for a little rip on the street. He's just gonna have to figure out some stuff with the transmission leak that's going on with it. You can see there's still a puddle under there I haven't cleaned up yet. But I'm gonna be moving on, and I'm gonna start to work on this thing and be on the lookout for next video. I'm gonna start filming right now this new Civic that we're gonna work on and install a turbo kit for a customer. So thanks for watching, guys. Have a great night and a better tomorrow. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and yeah, see you later.